me working from a guard position. We're going to be down here in a supine guard, and I want you to think about this. We're going to play with 3 variations of guard. We're either going to be playing with outside De La Riva, right? Outside De La Riva. We're going to be playing with inside De La Riva, and we're going to be playing with K guard. Okay, so that's what I want you to think about, just so you understand where we're going today. We're going to be playing with outside De La Riva. If he defends the outside De La Riva, we play inside De La Riva, or we limp to the outside position and we play K guard. So just make sure you understand what's going on. One more time, we're here. I play outside De La Riva, inside De La Riva, and far K, or K guard. Okay, so that's what we're going to play around with. So let's start with the outside De La Riva, and I want to start with a really important skill, which is the idea of knocking him down. So let's think about this. I've shown you guys low reverse guard plenty. So a lot of you understand low reverse guard, where I lock down here and I externally rotate his knee, and you see the reaction I'm getting. I'm starting to knock Jake down in a backstepping motion, normally down towards the knee. All right, if he doesn't do that, he just falls on his hip. I want you to think about doing exactly the same thing with your De La Riva. So you're going to put your hook in. So for your hook to come in, you're going to notice that if his knee's externally rotated, it's really difficult. So you're going to use your second leg, and you're going to use a movement of yourself, starting to move yourself around the corner here until you can get a hook in here nice and low, like this. Then we're going to start to effectively invert by extending and turning underneath our partner here like this. So this is going to be something we need to be able to do. Now, even the least flexible of you in the room can probably do that. Now, what do you have to be able to do to that? To be able to do that, you would have to be able to do this, where you take your feet back behind your head. So unless you have such a large stomach that you can't actually roll into a backwards position with your feet on the mat, which I don't think anyone here will have that problem, you should be fine. So all you've got to do is take your feet like this. That's all you've got to be able to do, is collapse in half. So we're down here. Now, if his knee is turned out, I do a mixture of pushing him and turning me. And then I put my hook in and I use an extension to try and create tension. I want you to focus on pulling his lower leg inwards while I push his knee external. You can even take a knee pull if need be, and then I just start to collapse in half. Once you've done this collapse in half, you're just going to keep going all the way through till you fall on your side, and we're just going to put our knee behind his leg, and then we're just going to kick him through here, and at this stage, we've basically flanked him. If you have a look at my position, I'm starting to flank the guy and expose his back. So that's what we're going to do. So one more time. We come out here. I put my hook in. I start to knock him down to a hip, and I just fall through, pummel my feet to the inside, and then we can build from there. Let's give it a go. In between both directions is where the money's at. So like I said to you when we started with the idea we're going 3 directions. Outside De La Riva, inside De La Riva, and K guard. That's going to be what we're doing here. I'm going to start on this side because then I'll be able to use this other leg. So I start to try and work towards my De La Riva, and I get a square up from his knee, which is pretty common, right? So I start to get something like this. So then we're just going to look at going the other way. So instead of trying to invert around the back side of this, which has kind of gone away from me, we're just going to switch onto the other hip. So you might also, against a more advanced player, you might find that just showing him this gives you the reaction, and then you can go. So you might basically throw him a dummy. You know, you're not actually even looking to go to that outside De La Riva, but it gives me the reaction that I want, and then I start to come in this way, and then I start to invert and I kick him up overhead. So we just do the same kind of inversion, but this time it was on the inside instead of on the outside. Once we're here, we're in a good spot. Anytime he's down on one knee, I always want to keep the other leg off the mat if I can. If he can drive his weight onto that, this is generally better for him. So I want you to really focus on keeping his leg up off the mat. All we're going to do is pummel our foot inside, and then let's just keep things super simple. All I want you to do once you've flanked him, and really I think of it, once I've flanked him, is kind of when I'm behind him in this situation and both my feet are now inside. All I want you to think is get to his hips. Don't worry about anything else. As long as you're connected to his hips, it doesn't matter where he goes. He'll probably try and run away, which is pretty common, in which case I'm going to use him to drag me up, and then I start to come into turtle attacks. So this type of guard play, the main feature is going to be back exposure, and then followed up by leg attacks if they defend by putting their back on the mat. So just keep that in mind. So we're coming here, and if he lets me put a De La Riva hook in, great, but he doesn't. He starts to turn his knee open and starts to take that away. So we're going to go inside De La Riva. So then we start to come here, and I kick him up, and I just invert through. So all we're going is from outside to inside. As soon as I see that back, second hook comes in, and I just get a body lock. That's all I'm focused on. Then we chase him from there. Get a partner, let's give it a go. Pretty simple for now. We started out on the outside. We then look to go to the inside. Now, if at any stage he starts to step across here, and I feel like this leg's available, I can also limp my foot to the outside. And I wrap my shoelaces around him because I'm going to use this nearly as a pulling grip. So I use my foot and my hand to start pulling him towards me. Now, we're going to think of two directions with this. Just walk over here for me, please. We're going to think of two directions with this attack. If he stays upright, I'm going to be starting to throw into the back of his knee and look at going in towards the legs here with backside positions. If he takes a knee here on the far side, which is quite common, and starts to try to adjust me, I might try to go more towards the back here. So let's just think about that. So if he starts to take a knee here and turn his knee back towards the ceiling, all I'm going to try and do is look at the idea of putting him to a spot where I can put this outside hand on the mat. So all I'm going to start trying to do is this. I'm just going to try and put his weight onto his outside hand, which, like I just spoke to you about before, gets weight off this leg. If we get weight off this leg, we can now start to pummel our knee inside, and now we're just back to that position that I said before. We flanked him at this stage, and all your focus is get to a body lock. If you can come up and get your hands locked, good chance we're going to his back, or at least we're behind him, right? So let's look again. We're now playing between outside, inside, and far K, or K, however you want to think about it. So I wrap around here and I start to go. If he does nothing and stays up standing, we're going to his leg. We're going to have him take a knee here, and we're just going to focus on try to touch that hand on the mat. If that hand touches on the mat, things are looking pretty good. From here now, knee goes in the back. I pass the leg to the other side, and as soon as it passes, I extend and I just go looking for the hip. Once I get to the hip, now we're off. So one last time. We're here. Manage to get him down to a knee. I get his hand to the mat. We start to bring everything across, and then we're coming up here into the back. Let's go. We're here. We play outside. We go towards the inside. We go to here. If I feel like I can't get a good scoop on this leg, I could always just get to the ankle and shuffle myself back in here, and then I can go back to work doing what we did before, playing with the outside De La Riva. So now we're just kind of joining everything back together. So there is no specific sequence we have to go in. You could start with any of the three, but the three are always going to work off each other. I start to go underneath here. I start to go to the outside, and maybe now the outside opens this way. I just can't knock him down with this foot. But you get the idea. So I'm just looking at knee positioning and what I can make available. If I can get to here and I start to see this, I can start to go. All I'm thinking about is, can I knock him down to a knee or to a hip, and then going to the back is going to be relatively easy. So now you're just going to play around with that. Your partner will give you some different reads. I start to come out here and try to play the outside. If I can get it, great. If I can't, I start to go to something else. I could limp here and start to go into K-guard from here. I can limp here and start to go to K-guard. I can come on the outside and put my hook back in and start to invert. If things aren't working, I could always get on the other hip and start to invert back underneath. Once I get to here, now I'm looking for the hips anytime I get behind him. So just sort of semi-live drilling, and your partner will give you some reads. If you're pretty new to it, it might be tricky. The other thing I want the uke to do is, they won't necessarily stay on one side of the body. So he starts to play here. They might also start to come across here, which leads you to go into the next guard play. They won't always just stand over here in a neutral position. So it doesn't just have to be about the knee positioning. Sometimes it's about their body positioning as well. Let's go.